MTS. Hey, Jack, how are you? Good.
Hey,
thank you.
Jack.
Microphone number 1.
So one was an out of the money.
Testing.
MTS.
They were.
And one was.
Microphone number 2.
I'd like to see both. I'd like to see some of the-
Testing mic 3.
That. I mean, I definitely have.
Number 5.
I should be able to search it and find it tomorrow.
Microphone number 6. Mic 7. Microphone number 8. Podium microphone. Mic number 9.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Rye-Town Park Commission meeting of August 15th, 2023. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll. Debbie?
Commissioner Jason
Hello?
Klein,
Here.
Commissioner Lindsey Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Josh Cohn,
Here.
Acting Commissioner Jamie Jensen, proxy for Emily Hurd. Here. Acting Commissioner Joan Grosjean Thomas is expected later. President Zuckerman.
Here. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 18th, 2023?
But before we do, I was present for all but the very beginning of this meeting. I'm not reflected here.
Well, I think we need to reflect you.
I don't remember when I came in, but I certainly remember leaving at the end of the meeting.
Right? It doesn't say you were absent. It only says,
I didn't vote on anything.
you sure you were here?
Yeah, Fritz was here, and
Yeah, I remember. You greeted Fritz.
so I was on Zoom.
Yeah, and I see that Mayor Cohn is not here at all, so I think that we should review these and put them on the agenda for next month.
Will do.
Agree? Okay. Resolution to approve a change order for the Rye-Town Park bathhouse window replacement in an amount not to exceed $140,000. I had submitted a memorandum regarding this matter, and so has our architect, Gary Gianfrancisco of Arconics. I'm going to bring Gary in to tell us what this is, why we need to do this. And we have pictures.
Mr. President, members of the commission, Gary Gianfrancisco, Arconics Architecture PC. I'm going to take you through my memo, which is in front of you at this moment, and then we'll use the photographs to clarify exactly what it is we're talking about. The recent exploratory probes at the exterior facades of the bathhouse have uncovered two very different conditions, each requiring their own remediation. The bathhouse front and sides, for the most part, have clay brick black backup that the stucco has been applied to. There are several areas where the clay brick has been removed and a concrete brick has been installed underneath the stucco and they've stuccoed over them. That is the prevailing, one of the prevailing issues is that concrete brick. The aggregate and the organic material, which is composed of the brick, basically is disintegrating. So a brick that's meant to work in compression, these are exterior walls are load bearing on the bathhouse. If you apply direct pressure, the brick crumbles, the concrete brick crumbles.
Is that the concrete brick or the clay brick?
This is the clay brick, this is Exhibit A, and basically what we're depicting here is the delamination of the stucco. So this is pretty sound masonry backup. However, when they put the stucco on, they applied it direct to the clay brick. And whenever you get a hairline crack, the stucco obviously cracks and starts to open up. But in this instance, and I'll show you the next photograph, so I'm sliding in a piece of paper in between the brick surface and the stucco. So even if it sounded solid, it's not until we opened up some things that we really were able to determine what was going on. So in this case, it's stucco delaminating from a concrete brick. This is part and parcel of the first photograph where we showed you brick and the delamination. Now this, on the surface, looks sound. It's not until you pull this off and you can start to see that the stucco has adhered for 80 years, perhaps 100 years, but whatever it was, but it's pulling away. Making a repair of going over the existing stucco foolish at best.
So are you saying that the stucco, existing stucco has to be peeled off
Correct.
and the whole facade has to be restucco?
Correct. We've just basically almost completed the installation of the windows and the stucco that surrounds the windows. And in that instance, we took all the stucco off. Where there was stucco, there was a masonry block that we applied stucco to above the windows, but wherever there was stucco that we did new, and we went down to the masonry surface. And it's only having done that we realized the things that were going on underneath. So what we would do for remediation is take the stucco off to the brick surface. We would add a bonding agent, coat the brick, and then we would start to put our mesh. So there's no mesh or holding the stucco together. So we would do a synthetic mesh, do a coat, do another layer of mesh, and do 2 more coats of our stucco. That would, in the event that there were to be ever hairline cracks in the future, that bridges that crack, and we wouldn't get the kind of failure that we've gotten here.
How long would you expect the new job to last?
I would say it's generational. It's 50 years. It's as good as the backup. I mean, we're not making the backup perfect, but it's acceptable, and I would say you're talking 50, 60 years for sure. It's the right job.
Mhm.
So in 2 or 3 areas on the front, where we had clay brick, we found things such as this. So this is the entrance to the women's bathroom. We're just to the left of that. And you can see there's a hairline crack. At some point in time, the clay brick that was here was replaced by this concrete brick as a repair. That's the only way we can surmise it. It's a clean cut, and this is the disintegrating concrete brick.
Huge repair.
Well, I think, again, once we,
Is there any sense of how much of that, do we have any record of how much of that concrete brick is behind there? If you were to take all the stucco off, how much is
Yes.
clay brick and how much is concrete brick? You have a sense of that?
yes, on the front and sides, it's very minimal, but it happens in some inopportune places, like a corner, for whatever reason. The numbers that we discuss in the memo for a change order are based on the quantities all in to do the job and do it correctly. So the next photo, so you can see the cavities, but this is the aggregate that made up those bricks that have disintegrated. It's fallen down. And this even has a sense of some organic material, like it's almost dirt-like. But as you peel this off, that stuff tends to run out. You can see this. I'm able to stick my finger right into this. So it's not a hard material anymore. It's not capable of a bearing load. And there's another shot of the finger. You can see this almost looks like dirt. For whatever reason, we try to, as architects, we try to figure everything out. Back in the day, there were lots of independent little yards that made block. Not like today where they're manufactured and there's standards, and they were made in, there was a yard on Cottage Street back in the day. And so there were no controls, there weren't those kind of things, and that's the only thing I can think of, because the building now, because of the new roof and the overhangs, we're not taking on water anymore. So for that to have been disintegrated, I think is just the breakdown of the mortar that must have been in that mix. So the repair for something like this is to what we would do in this instance is we would find a bearing point, or we would make one. We would open up a well, put some high-strength, quick-setting grout, and we would do that in maybe 6 places on a 4x4 sheet of welded wire mesh, which is big mesh. It's what they put in sidewalks. And we would put that in, grout it in, and then make one application of high-strength concrete, make another application, probably 3 lifts to build out to this surface, because we want to align now with this clay brick and work to that point. And then we would mesh over and stucco over the entire surface. That's fundamentally the cure.
Okay, Gary, I didn't understand that. It sounds as if we're building a very strong new surface that will be under the stucco, but it's a surface over the deteriorated concrete brick. But meanwhile, we've got a wall thickness full of deteriorating concrete brick that we're just going to leave in place. Is that correct?
It's mostly correct. So that concrete that we're going to pour is going to fill all these wells. That's really the whole point, is to give us enough of an area that's solid and bonded to the wall. Beyond this surface, there's several other block widths of wall behind it that would remain in place, and the integrity of it is they weren't these solid concrete brick. They were more like concrete block, like you would conventionally see, behind this. So this was more of a surface fix.
I see, but so that block that's behind the concrete brick still has integrity?
Yes, and we're comfortable with all of that.
So let me make one. So the buildup is on the concrete block, the dark block, building it to the clay, right?
Right, so this is all being the same.
So that the clay and the concrete, which is the dark dirt, essentially, that will then be one surface.
Correct. We take our synthetic mesh and go over everything. We bridge all of these areas. I mean, this was a repair previously for whatever reason. We don't really understand some of the cracks that are here, but we're going to bridge all those cracks.
we don't understand a lot of how this place was built, I have to say.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Okay, going to the
Probably all
rear of
done
the
without a
building.
building permit, too.
So, this only got exposed during the course of our work up here. This is all the new work. And during the course of doing this, that whole chunk fell into the parking lot. Fortunately, it's barricaded and everything else. But it exposed to us that this is a similar concrete block to what I was showing you on the front. This is not. This is not that concrete block. But we've taken all this stucco off, and again, we've done our mesh and we've bridged everything. What's held up better than the brick are the mortar joints. Here you can still see the mortar joints from when the brick was originally laid, that concrete brick. There
You
are
can
lots
see
of
it better
voids
here.
in the back, as well as the aggregate just falls out. This aggregate is very different than what's on the front. This is more typical of a concrete block. But again, you can see my finger goes right in. When we do our welded wire fabric, like I showed you on the front, we do the same thing. All these voids get filled by the multiple pores, and we bridge all the imperfections that way. Again, this is on the back of the building, and you can see the significance of that void, and we can see the widths beyond this, and see that they are unlike what's on the surface.
Back to the mayor's comment that the cement blocks behind are still structurally sound, even though
Yes.
that looks really deep.
Yes, it's deep, but there's several layers of those concrete block, even in this location beyond.
Beyond.
For the most part, when we rip out a window, we look at the jamb of the window,
Do you have this in
we
there?
can see there's three different widths of material, masonry material. That's basically it for the show and tell of it all. In working with our contractor, we have a contractor on the job. The intent was to utilize unit prices in the contract to do the rest of the work. The rest of the work is not indicative of the work that he already did. It's much more involved, there's a lot more material, there's a lot more stuff that needs to be disposed of. But based on the descriptions I've given you for the three different kinds of conditions, the contractor has quoted a price for the front and the sides, which is different than the back. That back is an animal unto itself. The front and the sides is $200,000. The rear wall alone is $140,000. Collectively, $340,000. The key to all of it, you can choose to do just the front and sides. You can do just the back. Whatever doesn't get done under this contract, however, these numbers won't be standing anymore. You'll have to go to another bid. But if you decide to do the rear of the building now, we know it's $140,000. If you forego the front and the sides for now, we have a number of 200. That number won't be valid moving forward. There's a certain economy to doing it all now because insurance is paid for, scaffolding is on the job, they're mobilized, they have equipment, and if we close out this contract and don't do that work, it'll be another public bid.
I just want to be clear, when you refer to the back, that is the flat wall overlooking the parking lot that you're referring to,
Correct.
correct? Okay, and then, so the sides and the front are the the entrance, the restroom entrances, that's the front of the building?
Correct.
Okay.
You can see, so this was a repair. You can see the thickness, they just kept putting stucco on, putting stucco on. And if what this is laid up against doesn't adhere, it's coming off. And we see,
So when you look at that back wall, how much of that is the concrete brick that's
All of it.
deteriorated?
The-
It's
the
the
back
whole
wall?
thing?
yeah, from end to end, it's 110 feet or whatever
Okay,
it is.
and on the sides, do you have a sense of what's the concrete and what's the clay?
Yes, it's very minimal.
Okay,
We specifically have seen 2 areas for sure, and
Hmm.
maybe a third, but the numbers that are quoted here are all in. You know, the feeling is. that-
whatever you find, you'll fix it.
Exactly,
Doesn't matter, and the front is the same way,
yes.
okay.
All right. Questions of the architect? Further questions? We know it's ahead of us. I had written a memo recommending at least that we do the back part. We have grant money available, and when we got the original grant money was for $100,000 CDBG. We had approximately $83,000 left over from the state parks through our last, our CFA grant, which was a 2018 application. The county gave us another $60,000 in CDBG money, which all of the CDBG money and all of the parks money is 50% match, but we are permitted to match one against the other. And so the chart that I provided shows that the $83,000 of CFA money would be matched against the $160,000 of CDBG money. We had hoped, and I would say that before this weekend, that the $120,000 would cover the cost of the repairs. As you heard from Mr. Gianfrancesco, that is not the case. So my original recommendation was to at least do the back, the estimate for which is $140,000. And that would result in a local match for the city and the town of $89,300, $53,580 for the town 60%, and $35,720 for the city of Rye proportion. And that is what the change order resolution reflects. As Gary said, we have the option of doing more work, doing the front and sides at an estimated expense of $200,000 additional, and that would be non-grant money. That would have to come out of the capital funds of both the city and the town. And the town's share would be 60% or $120,000, and the city's share would be 40% or $80,000.
I've only spoken to our financial people about doing the back. And I would like to see us defer the rest of the job and get grant money to help fund it in the future.
I understand we laid out the alternatives. And as I say, what is before us now is to do the back at a cost of $140,000. And I'm prepared to go forward with that. Other comments? Diana?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Page. I'm the president of the Friends of Rye Town Park. I took a look at the building today. And I have photos and videos, but I doubt I can get them up there, but you showed that it falls away like sand. You did show the huge hole over by the women's restroom entrance, and there's another one further along that side of the building. So I appreciate that money is, always the issue, but I would just like to lodge an appeal to consider doing the entirety of the building if we can possibly find a way, because it's, great that it sounds like we might be able to agree that the side facing the parking lot, there may be money to cover that now. But the building is, you seem like you have the contractors there, the people that you are entrusting to do the job, they seem to be doing it well. As you point out, there's already investment made in insurance and other sort of sunk costs, if you will. So, I'm really just appealing kind of as somebody who cares a lot about the park to consider doing the building in its entirety while you're having it just finishing the job. I guess I would have a question. If you did the back of it before winter comes and, the front of it, like the side by the women's bathroom has that giant gaping hole, and even the brick, even the red brick, I don't know how that fares when the stucco, for example, through the winter. Do you anticipate that a cold winter, a wet winter, ice and snow and so forth throughout the winter would cause yet further damage and make the job that much bigger and more expensive when we once again turn our attention to it? I don't know if you want to come back to the mic to answer that.
Good question. Time is of the essence because time is against us and with the weather. We would need to figure out a way to protect those areas. If we don't do those areas now, we have to figure out a way to protect them, not knowing when it might get fixed. So it's finding a middle ground, nothing gets better with waiting. It's gonna cost more, and you're gonna have continued deterioration.
How long is this project? How long does it take to do this project? Like, when will you be done with the part that if we pass this resolution tonight, will be done?
The rear work,
Yeah.
if we do the rear work, we're looking at pretty much the onset of cold weather. You're probably into October.
Okay, and if you got the entire project, how long would it take you to get it done? Would you get it done in the same time?
Yeah, they would staff the job a little differently, knowing that there's an end game here.
I'd like to point out that there's some risk in not addressing the exposed portions of the sides. Sorry, commissioners, I beg your pardon. There's a risk in that you saw how that chunk of stucco, without warning, just fell. We have seen chunks of stucco fall off our buildings. And to leave the sides and the front unaddressed is to also leave the possibility, not all that unreasonable statistically, that it could happen. And at an inopportune time when someone is within range.
I think that at the very least, we would have to make temporary repairs at the front and side to at least hold the building together until we had a permanent solution. If we only go forward with doing the rear at this time. I think that, Josh and I have had many discussions since we've both been on the commission as to what the process is for the city and for the town to approve this work. I don't have a problem talking to the town council about doing this because, after all, this is $120,000 on the town's dime. And, I don't know if the council is, what their view would be at this time to go forward without any grant money. I don't know if Josh wants to talk to his council and get their feeling, but.
We only spoke today, Gary,
Yeah, I know.
about doing the back of the building. That was our conversation, and that's what I spoke to Rise financial control people about. That's what I'm prepared to vote in favor of. And we did not have any conversation at all about doing the front and the sides. And I can't vote for anything
No,
other
I'm not
than that
asking for
which I
vote.
know we can pay for.
I'm not asking for a vote on that. I understand, Josh.
I find this an incredibly important conversation, and I'm so appreciative of the fact that I'm not in Diana's position, I'm sitting up here. If there's a way forward, we should find a way forward. But we need to figure out how to do that in the time horizon that the engineer architect is here. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. And so.
It's Gary, it's a very common name.
And so I'm very comfortable with Josh saying, okay, let's pass this first resolution, get it off the table, move forward. I would like, though, and I don't have any power really, I just feel very privileged to sit up here. I would like, though, to be able to make sure we don't just now walk away and don't continue the conversation in case there's an opportunity within the relationship between the Rye City and the town of Rye to find a way to get this done. So I just don't want to walk away from it, but I'm in the same position as Josh is. All you can do is vote for what the resolution is before us.
I agree.
But I would love, and any way I can be helpful, Mayor, in sort of making that conversation happen internally, because I just sat through an amazing capital improvement plan discussion. You got some real talent, Debbie, when you get to work with Greg Usry. And I think that, those people love to work outside of the box. They take on challenges like you can't imagine. And so I would like us to just keep having the conversation and make sure we pass this tonight, but I don't want to walk away. I would say don't walk away from it. And I think that's kind of what Mayor's saying. He's stuck. He's like, this is all I have to say.
I'm not suggesting that we vote on the other 200,000 tonight. I am exactly where you are, and I think I'm where you are, Mayor, is to vote on this tonight and possibly continue the conversation in any way that we would deem appropriate, both the city and the town.
We basically have a quarter, right? 1/4 of a year. We have the fall if we want to try to get this done and keep the costs down. Okay, so, those that are in power need to go back and figure out how to make that conversation happen. I would love to see it happen. I'm just sort of saying that. I think it's important. I think that we'll probably have a conversation at Friends about it, but that's really unsettling. And as long as you can really assure that you have a sense of where,
All right, Joan, do you have anything to say?
Only that I agree with everything you said, and the conversation will need to continue because we'll need to talk about potential remedies, even in the short term for the front and side. So the conversation needs to continue, and again, in that course of conversation, perhaps other remedies will be found. So it makes sense.
Jason?
And I think what I'm trying to say too is I appreciate your point that you have spoken only about this amount of money that's before us tonight. I guess what I was also trying to say, and Jamie said it better, is I'd love for that not to be the end, because it seems like we have a lot of the factors in place that would allow us to just properly do this building from start to finish instead of patching here and there and hoping and letting the weather do its worst. So I think that would be great if we could really
Jason?
work toward that.
Comment from Jason and then a comment from Lindsay?
Yeah, no, I agree. We came prepared for one thing, and I think, we stick with that, but it does make sense to look into it, because whatever we can do, and hopefully, maybe, who knows, maybe there is some grant money out there that could get us through the finish line.
Well, you know me well enough that we will try to find more money from whatever source, state, county, federal.
That I do.
Lindsay? Is Lindsay on?
She's there, but she's on mute.
Lindsay, you're on mute.
I think, did I just unmute myself?
No, you're there. We hear you.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Hello?
Hello, Lindsay, we hear you.
Kathy. I think I concur with sort of moving forward. I think we also have to consider, the sightliness of the bathhouse and also, you know, inconvenience to park visitors as well. And I want to, you know, if we prolong this is obviously going to impact park goers on the longer term.
All right, I think we've beaten this horse. Thank you, Linz. A resolution to approve the change order in the amount not to exceed $140,000.
I'll make it.
Second, please.
Second.
Debbie, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Cohn?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grajewa Thomas?
Yes.
President Zuckerman?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for a very good and complete discussion. Our next item involves another grant, retaining Dolph Roadfield Engineering to conduct the drainage analysis for the duck pond. We have received an award from FEMA. Gary, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Gary came here, he's not feeling well, he's recovering from COVID. We have received a grant from FEMA to study, not to do the work, to study a project to deal with the flooding from the duck pond. That's the short version. The grant is in the amount, actually, the total project cost for the study is $54,500. Federal share is $49,050, and our non-federal matching share is $5,450, which is 10%. Debbie, do you want to go over, the memo's in the file, do you want to just go over a little bit more detail as to what this does?
This is part of the hazard mitigation, the 404 hazard mitigation program that was made possible by FEMA and is being administered by the Department of Homeland Security. The
State Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, thank you. New York State Department of Homeland Security. The Parks grant writers, engineer James Nettarelli, and I worked on 3 different applications which we submitted both to the 406 program and the 404 program. They were identical applications. One got through, and this is it. So this is a grant for approximately 49,000. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me. It's for a project not to exceed 54,000, I think 200. This is to do a hydrology study of the pond and the upstream impacts on the pond. In other words, the overflow that comes both from the storm drain pipes from the city of Rye and also the runoff from the park itself that impact the pond, and then the downstream impacts therefrom, because the water is considerably more than was anticipated when the pond was designed. So it is not handling the water. And what you are seeing here is a picture of basically an overstream, an overland stream, because the underground culvert has failed, and it's more than can be managed. So that is in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Ida. That's an image that anybody who walks in the park will recognize quite well. It happens regularly whenever it rains. And the downstream impacts of that on the beach, on the beach, on the restaurant are quite destructive and expensive. So this will be a study that will give us the answers. How much water where is it coming from, where is it running, and develop solutions. What are the solutions?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Are
Ms.
these
Jones.
conditions happening even post-IDA?
Yes, they are.
This is a mitigation grant. In other words, it's not to repair what Ida did, but to prevent future
Correct.
storm events. Not storm events, there will be storm
There will
events,
be, yeah.
but to prevent future flooding. Yes, Lindsay?
And this is just the study for the project. This won't entail work. This is to determine what work is needed.
Yes, this is, this project will give us the data we need and the solutions to then turn around and apply for grant funds to deploy the mitigation that's recommended. And of
Okay.
course, the hope and the prayer is that because they funded the study, that FEMA will then fund the repair. That's the theory.
Yeah,
So if we start with the planning process, we're hoping FEMA will work with us till the end.
well, we've been told, Lindsay, we've been told that once they approve the study grant, it's generally the rule that they will then approve the funding to complete the work that the study shows. Not 100% obviously, but that's the usual practice. And FEMA money is 90% money usually.
Yes, there's an additional scope of this study. The new ADA compliant path that we've just completed has had the unintended consequence of funneling a certain amount of runoff straight down that path onto the stairs and down onto the beach and the foundation of the restaurant. So this study will also include that problem and solutions.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions? We have a resolution.
Second.
Debbie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Klein? I don't know if he's still with us.
Commissioner Klein left. He put in the chat box that he had to go.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Grosjean-Thomas?
Yes.
President Zuckerman?
Yes, thank you. We have the management report. Anybody, any questions about the management report? Pretty clear. And the last item, recently added, annual request from Soul Riders to tie the park pink in October. We do this every year, and I don't think we have any problem with that. Is that correct? May I have a motion and a second to approve the Soul Riders request?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
Not a word.
I'll just make one quick update if I could. So, hello again. You want me to say my name again? No. Okay. So I just wanted to give some quick updates on all the progress the Friends of Rytown Park have made this spring and summer in the park. We have worked with our Chief Gardening Officer, Lucy Burkoff, who's a local gardener. We've planted 16 new trees in the park, most of which are native, all of which have eco-beneficial qualities to them, 7 of which are actually a redbud grove that we've dedicated in memory of Bill Lawyer. And we thought he would be especially pleased. It's at the sort of the Rye Beach Avenue entrance where Bill would come with his dog, and Katie and Liam, his children, have very kindly underwritten this with donations coming from their friends and families, and they're kind of making up the difference. So The trees are in, and we're just sort of sorting out the last few details, but we thought that was a lovely way to remember such a wonderful friend of the park. Many thanks to Russ and his team. It's very wet now, but back in the beginning, in the spring and summer, it was very dry, and they were shuttling water around throughout that dry period to fill the bags and water the trees almost every day. And so those trees would not have survived without them, so we thank them for that. We've redesigned the interior and exterior gardens at the Rye Beach Avenue entrance. So we've done some shuffling. We kind of repurposed some stuff that was in the front. We've planted a lot of new things. Again, a heavy focus on native, pollinator-friendly under Lucy's guidance. And so they look fantastic. We planted a new native meadow down by the ticket booth, which is at the Dearborn Circle. So there's kind of a large raised bed there, and we planted a new native meadow there that's coming along beautifully. We completed the Charlie North Shield area. You guys will remember many discussions about that, and we've installed a plaque there, and it gets lots of use. I see people sitting there all the time. It's beautiful. We get so many compliments on it. And then on behalf of Amy Vijayanagar, I'll just update that she developed a really lovely guide to the children's poetry path. So that's a subset of poems on the Rye Poetry Path. She worked with a local educator called Molly Ness and a whole host of folks to put together this beautiful guide that goes through each of the children's poetry path poems. It includes questions, points of discussion, all kinds of things. And we were really glad to welcome maybe 6 or 7 elementary school classes who made use of the park and the children's poetry path and the guide in June. And Russ, again, came out and met with a lot of those classes individually. I walked over and met some of them. Russ was there for really every one of them. And it was a great opportunity to get these kids, I know the Milton kids walked. It was a great opportunity to get these kids out of their schools and into the park as a classroom. And they learned a lot. The teachers loved it. And I think that will only grow. So that's outstanding. And then we had the 5th graders from Milton came and planted all of the gardens along the tower building. So they planted all these native plants. It was really beautiful. They had a whole volunteer day. They loved it. They were outside getting dirty and making it beautiful. And we're seeing the results now. It looks really great. So I hope you'll come to the park. But if you don't, I hope you look at my Instagram for Friends of Rytown Park and see all the pictures. There's a lot of good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Diana. Always a pleasure to see you here, especially with such great news. I mean, the friends are doing so much. That's wonderful. Do you need us to do anything? We've got it in hand.
I mean, the things I'd love you to do will cost a lot of money. Yes, I have a list.
You have a list.
I have a long list.
It's not often said, Diana, but you bring such energy to the Friends, and so the commission really does appreciate you. They talk about you, don't worry. You do a lot.
Only in good terms. We talk about you only in good terms.
It's a big us. There are a lot of Friends of Rytown Park.
We all, you didn't mention, but we also were one of the local organizations that the fire department honored, which is really lovely too.
Right. I'm so sorry. I do want to give a huge shout out. Sal Guanti of the Rye firefighters held a variety of fundraisers and selected some local charities, and we were the very happy recipients of a $5,000 check from the firefighters, lucky us, to do our work. And that was amazing. They held a fundraiser and they worked really hard to put that event together. So thank you, Sal, if you're watching, and the firefighters. That was really meaningful to us. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Jamie. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for sitting in. Do we have any comments from any of the other commissioners? Lindsay, you're the only one left. Any comments?
No, I'm without comment today. Apologize.
It's okay. Joe?
Nothing.
But I do have a great appreciation for the Friends of Rytown Park. It seems like they are doing a lot these days and moving forward, and that's great to hear.
Thank you. Mayor Cohen, comment?
No.
Neither do I, except to say thank you to everybody. I think we had a productive meeting tonight. And
August, no less.
in August, no less. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.